Planetary Enforcement Field Agent Zir was held aloft some 30 feet off the ground on an elevated platform from a heavy-duty hover truck with a fake company name blasted all over it. He had been adjusting some kind of digital apparatus that connected directly with the overhead data cables. While the end result was ethically dubious, the job at hand was rather easy for someone of his skill set, especially when given proper tools. Taking his time on the relatively cool and bright mid-spring morning, he made himself look like a typical tired and overworked technician, as that was his current disguise. While data tracking could most certainly be done remotely, having physical access to the data lines that supplied the human's home was invaluable. The data was not designed to break encrypted information. Instead, it copied all data passing through and sent it to an enforcement agency, tasked with data management and handling. Additionally, since this particular data tower was close to where the human lived, Zir had installed a very small and very powerful microcamera angled at her front door. Normally, such methods of information gathering were reserved for known or suspected high-profile criminals, and usually had to have clearance from the courts. However, Hal had deemed the human, Selena Thomas, to be too high-profile to get bogged down with the judiciary system, and bypassed the entire procedure. Hal had even staked his career on the whole thing, creating a bit of drama for the whole agency. Zir had bet 7 full rotations of paid vocation time, saying that Hal had made the right call. He was one of the few that did. Hitting the device and adjusting the circular visor that acted as a Mipos version of sunglasses, he played up the part of his disguise, fiddling around with his diagnostic computer to stay in character, though in reality he was playing a popular side-scrolling retro game remake, doing a speedrun against a leaderboard of sorts. Finishing the level and waiting for the game to submit his game data and update the leaderboard, he grinned. "Not bad," he said. "Rank 38 today." Turning off the game, he looked at the video feed almost by chance. "Well, hot damn," Zir said. "If it isn't that oily scumbag, I knew Hal was right about this. Looks like I'll be getting lots of time off this solar rotation." Zir watched Guake and Grindol leave Selena's house, then get into a typical and most ordinary hovercar that drove away in a most incognito manner. Lowering the platform down into its slot in the truck, Zir got into the driver's seat and headed towards Tal V, going in the opposite direction, trying to mentally count how much time off he could win. Selena looked at the pouch of vacuum-sealed coffee beans and then cut it open carefully with a knife. She immediately knew something was up, as the scent of the beans was different, and as she looked at them, she knew why. They were green. "Thanks," she said aloud to herself. "I have coffee beans but no idea how to roast these. Guess it's trial and error then." Shaking her head, she went to go put them into a container, and then into a cupboard. Going back downstairs to her workspace, she saw that Jessiqua's new prosthetic was nearly halfway done. The leg being built was a large, complicated work of art that needed a lot of time for the printer to manufacture it. Putting on some electronica dance music that had been popular back home on the low volume, she began her retinue of daily vidmails. She was going to make New Star Communications pay for making her have such an expensive add-on to her data package by actually using the services, especially when she started to get vidmail back from Earth. Unusually, while her longest messages were to her mother and uncle, this time it was to her best friend, Xiomara Asensio, and then a materials researcher. She went on about her time on Wokru, about meeting Rutak and how they had talked for a long time, that she needed to see the nightlife, get some friends, and maybe go on a date. How she discovered a mild dioxin intoxicant that was remarkably similar to soda pop. That she was using a cleaning agent as the basis for her ever-improving marionades and her never-ending monetary woes. None of her vidmails mentioned anything about Goik and his offer. Turning her music up, she started to write down the pros and cons of working for Goik, thinking hard about each and every point, while... Knock, knock, knock. "Huh?" Selena spoke out loud, losing her train of thought and lowering the volume of her music. Thinking she heard something, then dismissing it, she went back to her list. However, she kept the music on low. Knock, knock, knock. "I knew I heard someone," Selena said, as she paused her music and went to her front door. Opening it a few minutes later to see her sprawling, getting ready to knock on her door again. "Are you Miss Thomas?" the green woman asked, taking a step back to properly see the short human in front of her. "I am. How can I help you?" "I was told you accept walk-ins for prosthetic work and services." "I do. Come in, please," Selena said. "Let's get you set up. Would you like something to drink?" "Yes, water, please," Gerd replied, following Selena to her work area. "Tell me what's the issue while I connect everything, okay?" Well, Gerd said, as Selina started to connect a thick cable to her shin, it's a bunch of small things, really. The response times vary, discordant sensations all over, and sometimes the whole thing just goes limp. It's barely better than not having anything. I see. I think I already know what the problem is, but I'm still going to analyze something. While the program runs, I'll get some water for you, okay? Selina said, leaving the Sprouling in the patient's chair. As Gerd sat in the chair, she saw a 3D printer making a prosthetic leg of some kind. A high-end one, by the looks of it. She did not miss the fact that Selina had 4 prosthetic limbs herself, and combined with the expensive equipment and the analyzer program running, albeit in some kind of foreign script, Gerd knew that the human knew what she was doing. While the wait was not long at all, Gerd heard the low music playing from the computer. It was an upbeat mixture of tones, some synthetic and some not, with heavy percussive and bass throughout. The music simply made her want to dance, and quickly found that she was moving slightly in the chair, to the rhythm of whatever Selina had playing. I see you like drum and bass, Selina said, with a pitcher of water and 2 mismatched plastic cups. Both were from differing takeout restaurants. It's easy to move to, Gerd replied. It reminds me of some of the nightclubs I go to sometimes. Huh, no kidding, Selina said, pouring water for them both as the program ran. I've been meaning to see the nightlife around here. See what Talvi has to offer for entertainment. You're in for a treat then, Gerd said, still bouncing along to the music a bit. I can be your tour guide, show the first human I ever met what a night in the town is really like. Not that I'm complaining, but why would you do such a thing? I mean, you've literally just met me. Well, I'm friends with a Dioshine known as Rutak. He says you're a good being, so that's that. Until you prove me otherwise. Huh, I didn't know. He never said that he knew a Sprouling when I talked to him. Doesn't surprise me. He's not exactly a private individual, but he won't say anything unless asked about it. He's kind of particular in that regard. I've known him for almost half a solar rotation, so I'm still learning about him myself. Oh, that's interesting. He did say he's only been on walkthrough a solar rotation or 2, Selina said, as she was looking at the current readouts. Huh, she said again, as the diagnostic and analyzer programs finished. Your wordware interface is busted. I can't fix it, not right now anyways. Hoodoo, was the only thing Gerd said, her voice laced with anger. I thought that too, but I needed to make sure. You're the only one that offers free diagnostics. Well, yeah, I just want to help people. If that's me, cool. If it's with someone else, that's cool too. Anyways, if you can get a good webware interface, I can build you a custom prosthetic complete with sprawling synth skin if you want. I can guarantee that anything I build will be better than anything else, except for maybe what Mr. Soypix can do. He does some really good builds and webware installations, all of it fully custom and state-of-the-art. I don't count him though, he only does work for the ultra-wealthy. I'll look into it. I have to, now that my interface is messed up, Gerd said. Alright, do you want a physical copy of your interface data? Do you want me to send it to your personal messaging services, or both? Selina asked. Both, please. Okay. Do you have a data drive on you with 95 terabytes of free space? I can sell you one for a small fee if you don't have one. I'll buy one. Okay, Selina said, accepting the payment and starting the data transfer processes. Hey, how would you like to go out on the town tonight? Rutek and I don't work next rotation, so if we do dumb shit, it won't hurt us too much. What do you say? Before Selina had a chance to respond, Gerd said, Well, that's done. I just told Rutek we're all going out tonight on the town. I told him he's to pick you up since he's the closest to you, down the street really. And I know you don't have a vehicle yet. I live on the other side of Tower V, so I won't be able to get you. Be ready by dusk and wear something to impress, okay? Taking the offered data drive, Gerd let herself be led out of Selina's home and workspace. Rutek looked at his communications device as he received message after message from his sprawling friend, all sent in rapid succession. Having recovered from his hangover towards the end of his shift, he was wary of going out in the town again. That wasn't until he had been told that Selina had been roped into it as well, and that he was to pick her up. While her lack of scouts was a bit of a turn-off, she was undeniably cute and quite attractive in an odd and exotic way, even with her extensive prosthetics, the softness of her dark flesh and shortness of stature. Shaking such thoughts aside, he finished the remainder of his shift in a blur of anxious activity, and soon found himself in front of her residence after cleaning himself up for a night out. He messaged her that he had arrived and was waiting patiently by the curb. Selina Thomas had been ready for some time, but was anxiously waiting. Having already polished her travel prosthetics to a luxurious shine, and accentuating the fact that they were quite fake, she had taken a lot of time with her hair, getting it into a multi-braided bun of a cute updo, many thin braids cascading down her head, with lots of multicoloured beadwork throughout it all. Satisfied with her hair, she sent a quick vidmail to her grandmother as she showed off her hair to the camera, and said a quick thank you for teaching her everything, explaining that she was going to have a night out on the town with some new friends. Walking out to meet Rutek in a black, ruffled skirt that was almost too short, she would have to be careful if she needed to pick up something off the ground, and a thin, dark shirt with a relatively low V-neck design that let the outline of her two piercings show through, glittery purple lips curled into a smirk at Rutek's reaction. Even across species, she could be a showstopper. Rutek himself was not bad to look at either. With the unusually warm mid-spring evening, he was wearing some kind of open, sleeveless leather jacket, with multitudes of do-it-yourself studs and patches of all kinds sewn on, in different native scripts. His denim vest cut-off pants had the same do-it-yourself style and quality to it, studs and patches throughout, and designed to accommodate his thick and long tail. "If you think I look good," Selena said to Rutek, "you should see my ride." Rutek's mind quickly decided that rational thought was quite unnecessary for the moment, as he watched her walk up to him. I'm talking about you, you dummy," Selena said with a bit of a laugh. "Really, you look good. It suits you, I think." With his wits slowly returning about him, Rutek cleared his throat. "Well, we have a bit of time before we have to leave. Would you like to learn how to drive a hoverbike?" "Oh, I already know how. I was taught by one of my cousins, Samantha. Just show me the controls. I'm unfamiliar with this model." "Okay," Rutek said, explaining where everything was to her. "Sounds simple enough," Selena said, then moved in front of him on the hoverbike, putting his clawed hands on her hips. "Mind the claws," she said. "I don't want tears in my clothes, okay?" Without waiting for a response, she revved the engine 3 times and started off slow, getting a feel for the vehicle. It was not long before the two of them were going quite fast, heading towards their meet-up spot with Gerd and weaving in and out of traffic as Rutek gave her directions. Gerd was waiting for her friend and her soon-to-be newest friend to arrive. She had parked her hoverbike inside a local parking garage and already paid the parking fee. She was wearing a purple wraparound skirt with a slit in the side that showed off her right leg all the way up to her hip and waistline, with a matching sash-like garment around her chest. While she did not have hair to speak of, the vines and leafy growths on her head were a part of her, much like an arm or eye, and so had to be handled with care. She had put brightly coloured lengths of silken ribbons wrapping around her various vines. The lengths of soft silk had meant something culturally some time ago. Now, however, they were merely pretty baubles. With dusk now starting to lead into night, she was impatiently waiting. Hearing the familiar sound of a specific hoverbike, she smiled at her friend as he waved, letting the small human drive it. The two of them made for a most peculiar sight due to the large difference in height. It was quite comical. Finding an empty space on one of the upper levels for Rutek's hoverbike, Selena parked it and put it into a power-safe mode, handing the keys back to him. "That was fun. I should get one of my own," Selena said, then chuckled to herself for a moment. "My mum would be so mad right now. She says these things are nothing but metal death traps. She didn't talk to Samantha for a whole 30 rotations when she found out she took me to get my license for one." "I think I already like this cousin of yours," Rutek said, after he paid for the spot. "Let's go meet Gerd. She can get rather impatient." They both began to walk out of the parking structure together, the cool night air not bothering them, making small talk as they did so. "About time," Gerd said. "I was waiting for you two so long that I was nearly about to go off on my own." Looking at Selena properly, she said to her, "I like what you did to your hair." "I like what you did to your, vines," Selena replied. "Thank you. Now let's go. We've wasted enough time already." Gerd took charge of the two of them, leading them through the busy streets of Tal V, showing Selena around with Rutek helping at times. Tal V was like any other large metropolis. Throngs of people going this way and that, street vendors selling food and wares, novelty shops and expensive boutiques. Loud traffic and angry drivers, as well as a Tal V security guard or two, whose simple presence helped keep basic order. The atmosphere of everything was much different than the farmer's market at Wanderers Plaza. "Before we do anything, let's get something to eat," Rutek said. "Is your boss good for you, Gerd?" "That does sound good. I haven't been there in a while," Gerd replied. "Who or what is Uborg's?" Selena asked. Gerd answered. "He's a Dioshine street food vendor that makes some of the best skewers I've had. A little on the expensive side, but it's well worth it. This way." As they made their way towards the street vendor in question, the two women kept getting second glances at them, and Selena had more than her fair share. Whether this was because she had decided to have her prosthetics on such display, or the fact that she had dressed herself up in a provocative manner was of debate. Selena had made everyone step into a particularly interesting boutique or shop on more than one occasion, though no one bought anything. Soon enough, they were at the street vendor in question, and Selena knew Gerd had been telling the truth, at least according to her nose. While the smell of rotting meat was prominent, there was a subtle note of some kind of herb with it. Yubor, the Dioshine vendor, was quite plump, obviously overweight, and his scales had a greyish, dull hue to them. Tending to something on his grill that used actual flame instead of an electrical heating element, Yubor grinned jovially upon seeing the three of them.
Rutek, good, it's good to see you again, the Dioshine exclaimed excitedly. Your usuals? And you, miss, what would you like?
That's fine, Rutek said. You got it, Gerd replied. Surprise me, Selina said to the vendor. Whatever you're doing, it all smells so good. Best smell since I've been on this rock.
You got it, little human.
It was not long before they were served, perhaps 10 minutes at most, during which time the four of them conversed. Selina learned that the Uborg was pretty old and had been a vendor at this particular corner for some 50 solar rotations, gathering up a loyal following of customers of all species, learning through experience and experimentation. He was going to open up an actual restaurant soon, having saved up enough on his own to do so. The grand opening was set to be scheduled with Walkthrough's first Contact Day celebration, in 47 rotations. Once Selina had received her 2 differing skewers, she immediately fell in love. Well, quite unlike any skewer she had tried on Earth, they were the best things she had on Walkthrough, and promptly ordered 3 more, each of a different variety, and promised Yubor that he already had another regular customer. I can't believe how good that was, Selina said for the 5th time, as they walked towards the club Gerd had promised was the best. We know, Gerd and Rutek both said at the same time. Sorry, it's just that everything on this rock has been so bland, barely better than nutrient spheres. You both seem to forget that I come from what you call a hell world. If something isn't trying to eat us, it's trying to poison us. Methanol, capsaicin, caffeine, those are all sold in grocery stores. Some of our fruits have a pH as low as 2. Vinegar is used as a food additive, preservative or marinade base. And ethyl alcohol is a minor intoxicant for humans. If it doesn't kill a human outright, we probably turned it into food. So yes, it's a big deal for me to taste something other than textured water when I eat anything on this rock. You just don't look dangerous, Gerd said. I know you have prosthetics, but no scales, no claws, no poison, no pheromone production? Selina grinned as she answered. That's one part of human adaptation. We don't look dangerous. It makes others underestimate us on an instinctual level.
Now that's just scary,
Rutek said. Isn't it? Humans are durable because we've had to be. We evolved from omnivorous, persistent hunter-gatherers as both predator and prey. Things in our ancient past ate and hunted humans. To the best of my knowledge, we're the only species in the Alliance whose ancestors were both predators and prey. It has given us unique advantages. I can see that, Gerd said. Just don't turn me into a soup, okay? I won't eat you unless you want me to, Selina replied. Was that innuendo? Gerd asked, a little surprised. Only if you wanted to be, Selina said with a laugh.
See? Rutek said, as they waited for a traffic light to change. I told you you'd like her.
Well, statistically speaking, you had to be right at least once.
Hey!
Both girls laughed at Rutek's response. In a little bit of time after they all finished their skewers, the 3 of them arrived at Club Cypher. After paying the cover price and waiting in line for a small period of time, they entered, having first to show their identification in order to get in. The bouncer, a rather strong-looking Nimian, took an extraordinarily long time in confirming Selina's authenticity. Once inside, Selina knew this was a good place for her. The beat and rhythm were easy to move and dance to. Went to the dance floor, leaving her 2 friends behind without realizing it. On the dance floor, she found herself moving easily to the rhythm of the synthetic beats and heavy percussives, finding herself dancing with a random Mipot's male. At the table, Gerd and Rutek had managed to get to themselves. Gerd smiled at Rutek's reaction of seeing Selina dance with some other male. Jealous much, Rutek? Gerd has asked.
No, she can dance with whoever she wants to.
Uh-huh, she replied. I can tell you fancy that human. You go dance with her and I'll get her something to drink and snack on, all right?
All right. Here, Rutek said,
giving her some money for a personal electronics fund transfer.
Make it something good for everyone, okay?
You got it.
Selina was still dancing as Rutek edged the Mipols out of the way, so that he could dance with the human himself.
Took you long enough, Selina said, as she started to dance to the beat with her friend. I was beginning to think you didn't like me enough to dance with me.
Before Rutek could say something, the next song came on. It was a much faster tempo with lots of synthetic sounds and tones, though the bass was so deep and low, Selina could feel it echo into her chest, especially her synthetic lung. After a moment or two of getting a feel for the music, she began to move herself with the ebb and flow of it, letting herself get lost in it all, as it heavily reminded her of the many dance clubs from back home. Swaying her hips and body to the heavy and heady tones of the music, she had not realized that she and Rutek had been given some space, until a heavy-set Nimian had pushed Rutek out of the way.
Hey, Selina said after a moment.
Realizing that her dance partner had been replaced by Nimian. What gives?
A small thing like yourself needs to dance with someone strong, the Nimian said, flexing all 4 of his arms at once in an impressive display of masculinity.
Oh, I get it now, Cena said. You just want people to listen to you. You don't care about their personality.
No one wants that from a female, the Brew said. Females know their place and serve, so get back in your place.
Make me, asshole. The next few moments passed in a blur. The aggressive Nimian had charged Selena without warning, and he flipped and slammed hard onto the floor, stars dancing in front of his eyes. As he was still coming to grips with what had just happened to him, he heard a feminine voice speaking to him. Get out and never come back again, you hear me? Cena growled out, trying to be as menacing as possible, however. Seeing the stunned and flabbergasted look on the male's face, she added, Was I not clear? Did I stutter? Get your sorry ass out! Still not moving, the higher security hands had excused themselves past Cena and forcibly hauled the aggressive Nimian out of the premises. The rest of the night had gone on without a problem. It was quite fun for all 3 of them. Selena had danced with others as well as with Gerd and Rutak in differing amounts, and soon the club had announced that it was closing time, and that everyone needed to leave. While nothing the nightclub had offered Selena could get her intoxicated nor even buzzed, and Rutak had taken it easy as he had dealt with a hangover earlier that rotation, the same could not be said of Gerd. Rutak and Selena had to carry her out together to the parking garage, but she was quite inebriated and could not stand up on her own. I'll take our drunk flower girl back to my place, okay? Selena said, at the entrance to the parking depot. I have a feeling she won't be happy waking up in your home. I think you might be right about that, Rutak had said. Okay, you can take her hoverbike and I'll follow along in case something happens. Alright, now where did our drunk plant lady park? It took some time, however. They did find Gerd's hoverbike, and after Selena fished out what passed as keys from one of Gerd's many pockets, they were on their way. Selena had Gerd sit behind her, as Rutak followed a little bit behind them to make sure nothing happened. 10 minutes into their slow ride home, Gerd made Selena pull over into a parking lot, and then promptly began to vomit up everything while Selena held back her vines. It took some time for her to stop dry heaving. Whatever concoctions had gotten her drunk was still in her system, however, and Rutak had gotten everyone water from a refueling station down the street while Gerd spewed up her guts, in a manner of speaking. Alright, I think she's done. Let's keep going, Selena had said to Rutak, after Gerd had drained the water bottle. During the slow ride back home, Selena kept making sure that Gerd was still conscious and alive, not quite sure how to take care of her newfound drunk friend. A few times the human even had to move the intoxicated plant girl's roaming hands and put them back onto her waist. Soon enough, however, they arrived at Selena's house. With Rutak's help, they managed to get the semi-conscious Gerd upstairs, in Selena's bedroom. Dropping her onto the floor, perhaps a little too roughly, and throwing a sheet on her, Selena and Rutak went back outside. I had a lot of fun tonight, Selena said, despite taking care of Gerd. She's usually not like that, Rutak replied, but I suppose we all have our moments. Ain't that the truth, Selena agreed. Still, I had a lot of fun. I still can't believe it was you that did that to that Nimian. Oh, that was kind of fun, actually. I'm not going to lie. My Uncle Robert taught me that. Just remind me not to make you mad, okay? Should it be a problem, big guy? Selena said, then leaned up and kissed what passed as his cheek. See you soon, she said, with a bit of a blush, or perhaps a little too quickly, into her home. She heard Rutak rev his hoverbike twice and then sped off. The kiss she had given him had left her filled with a bit of adrenaline, and so she sent another vidmail to her best friend, detailing everything, and showing the sprawled out and snoring plant girl that was taking up space where a couch should have been. Signing off, she went to lay down and kept thinking about Rutak. It took a long time for sleep to find Selena.